People of color is a concept that the white power structure invented so they no longer have to pay attention to the black agenda. People of color bullies black people and misrepresents black people as having anything in common with other ethnic groups in America. People of color allows the United States government to attend to the needs of non-black ethnic groups in America while completely ignoring our issues, while at the same time being able to say that they're taking care of everybody because we're all collectively being grouped under this umbrella term of people of color. The worst thing that the American African people could ever do is allow our issues to be drowned out and suffocated by the issues of other non-white people in this country. People of color allows the government to give resources and opportunities to red people, brown people, yellow people, white people, without doing anything at all about black people's issues. People of color allows the opinions of other non-white, non-black groups in this country to give their opinion on issues that matter to black people, even though they're not affected by those issues. Because we are identifying with all non-white people in this country when we call ourselves people of color, we're putting forth this assumption, this false notion that we somehow share the same history, that we somehow share the same opportunities, that we somehow share the same types and forms of oppression. Nothing could be further from the truth. Mexicans were once considered white in this country. East Indians were once considered white in this country. Japanese went to court to try to be considered white in this country. Arabs are considered white in this country. Why on earth would African people allow the black agenda to be ignored, dismissed, and suffocated by calling ourselves people of color? One thing we need to understand as the American African people, no group is going to give us respect until we organize and make them do it. Look around the United States of America. East Indians are locking down the hotel and fast food industry. Latinos are locking down the construction industry. Caucasian nation has the car industry and the financial services industry on lock. The Asians import, export, and automobiles. Look how every group is locking down an industry in this country and in the world, while the American African sits around begging for respect, begging for diversity, begging for inclusion and equity, begging for reparations. Respect comes from power. The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey told you this more than a century ago. He said, quote, "A race without authority and power is a race without respect. A race without authority and power is a race without respect." Stop complaining and start building.
I heard a caller who was a regular WURD radio caller, and I heard him on the Al Sharpton show last week, and they were talking about young people. He didn't start out with young African American people. He said young people like the Chinese people and Asian young people. They don't want to hear that stuff about their history. And I'm saying, I'm finding it more and more that a lot of African American young people, they don't want to hear nothing about our history and our heroes and our legacy. And they are stuck with keeping up with the latest trend instead of finding out what's in their background. Do you find that to be true? And if so, how can we reverse it, or do we need to reverse it? And I say the reason why a lot of other cultures aren't really that concerned about their history and their lineage is because they didn't have to go through the same thing that black people had to go through. And if you had to go through what black people went through, and still going through, then that is something that we should keep up front of our conversations with our children and each other. What do you think?
When I look at this move to eliminate the teaching of slavery, because there's never been black history in America's schools, you have some districts who have it, like in Philadelphia, you get a credit or so, but of course it's taught by white people, so it loses any benefit it would have had because you got the oppressor teaching your children their history. How can there be psychological liberation when the person delivering the information is a colonizer themselves? But when I look at this move to eliminate the teaching of slavery and racism from American history classes and civics classes, I don't see it just as suppression of the information. I see it as a pretext and a prelude to the removal of African people from American society. I look at this as them preparing for the fact that they one day soon expect to have very little black people left in this country. Therefore, it's no need to even cover these topics. I mean, they're really setting up the society in such a way that it caters to black people no longer being around. So when they're getting rid of the DEI programming, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, once again, you know, we don't plan on having black folks around too much longer, so we might as well get rid of everything that we created just to cater to them. And that's a big reason why I think black people need to stop calling ourselves people of color. We are not people of color. We are Africans. Stop calling yourself a minority. We are Africans. When you use words to describe yourself other than who you really are, you are supporting the narrative to eliminate you from the public conversation and from the society itself. Words like DEI. Why did it become DEI? It used to be affirmative action. It became DEI because we plan on taking care of all the immigrant groups, but we don't plan on taking care of black people. That's why they want us to use the word people of color, because guess what? If you get rid of all black people, you can still use the word people of color. If you get rid of all Africans in America, you can still use the word minority, because there would still be Chinese, there would still be Arabs, Latinos, East Indians, Jews, and poor whites, homosexuals, and women. You can still use the word minority. But if you use the word black, if you use the word African, everybody is absolutely clear as to who you're talking about. We have to stop being so ashamed to show up and show out based on who we are, not on who white people want us to identify with.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is so amazing. So we've been helping these people to eliminate ourselves because we believe in everything they do than our own self.
Yeah, but of the philosophy that I don't believe in blaming the victim, and we certainly have been victimized to think a certain way. We've been victimized to develop a certain mentality, and so we act out against each other is due to the monster that they created in us, and then they want to talk about the monster that they created. It's like we become a Frankenstein, and they made us Frankenstein. And that's why we do a lot of harm to ourselves, and that's why I'm talking about what we need to do in order to reverse that and begin to love ourselves instead of being anti-black. You know, because you got a lot of blacks that are anti-black, and we need to eliminate that, and not each other.
Yeah. Well, you have more blacks who are anti-black than whites. You know, the whites may be ruthless, but in terms of pure rejection, alienation, and contempt, you know, as the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, he said the racism within the African race exceeds the racism directed at the African race. And I'm going to say this too, gentlemen, when we look at desegregation, because America never integrated. Most of our kids still go to 90% black schools. You know, most of our people still live in 80% segregated neighborhoods. So America never integrated, but you do have desegregation. When we look at the effects of desegregation, I believe one of the most harmful aspects of deseg was it exposed us to foreign ideology about healthy living and success. And in being exposed to this formal ideology about healthy living and success, we gave up our African culturalism for the Caucasians' capitalism. In other words, as African people, we always valued every human life equally, whether you was poor, whether you were homeless, whether you were mentally ill, whether you were a billionaire. Life is always equal for African people because the God in the homeless man is no different than the God in the wealthy man. But the Caucasians have recreated our consciousness into a reflection of their own, where just like them, we judge people, their value. Your life The value of a life is based on how much education you have and how much money you have. That's white people. And we as black people have swallowed it whole.
Yeah.
So we now look at other black people who don't have what we have as useless. You have black people who, just like Caucasians, believe that if you are poor, if you are homeless, if you are uneducated, if you dropped out of high school, that you are worthy of death. That you are worthy of death. That there's nothing wrong with getting rid of people who are struggling in this world. That is so far from who we are. Success for African people has always been about how much you've done for others. The most successful were the most impactful, the most charitable, the most influential. It wasn't the most selfish. It wasn't the wealthiest. It wasn't the biggest car or the biggest home. We have literally turned our backs on who we are to imitate the people who have caused us the greatest amount of harm. And that's why I always say that in order for us to have a truly authentic African world revolution, there must first be a psychological revolution. Garvey said it best when he said, if the black man and woman are not careful, we will drink in all the evil and poison of Western civilization, and we will die from the effects of it.
That's true.
Eating the poison every day. It's like we have a funnel in the top of our head. They're just pouring that propaganda in, and some of us are just consuming it.
Brothers and sisters, when you say Dr. Umar, why you don't work with the other brothers or sisters in the conscious community, it's not that I don't work with the other brothers and sisters in the conscious community. It's just that many of those who you all listen to and admire on social media are simply utopians and intellectual masturbators. I am a builder. I am an organizer. I am a leader. So it's not about me not working with other people. I work with builders. I work with organizers. I work with leaders, not intellectual masturbators. Y'all get me twisted because I'm the most requested black scholar in the world. Y'all get me twisted because I'm the most influential Pan-Africanist in the world. Y'all get me twisted because I'm the most influential certified school psychologist in American history. Y'all get me twisted because I do so much speaking. But understand, the speaking, the raising of the consciousness is only a small part of the life and work of Ifatunde Oguntade. At my very essence, at my very core, at my very soul, I am a nation builder. Peace and Pan-Africanism.